Yeah.
Okay, so we finished reading the definitions of tzedakah last time, right? So let's just review. Isaiah is here. So let's review the first halacha and then go right into the question of how much tzedakah do you have to give? Okay, so I mean, he already partially answered that, but mitzvos to say litain tzedakah la'aniyah Yisrael k'fi ma sheroy la'ani. So that is the first instance of how much you should give. It's mitzvah to give tzedakah to the poor of Israel in accordance with that which is proper for the ani. And remember, and tzedakah means to give each bal chov that which it is owed, and then to give each existing thing that which befits its existence. That was what Rambam says in the Morning Book. Okay, Shneimar Pesach Tiftach Es Yadach Lo, Shneimar V'Hechazak Bo Ger V'Soshav V'Chai Imach. You should open your hand to him, and you should strengthen him. A ger and toshav v'chai imach, and he will live with you. V'nemar v'chiach imach. Yeah.
Do we read that line?
Oh, sorry, no, we didn't. If you have the ability. Okay. So another thing we didn't do. What would you say the difference is between these three pesukim? You shall surely open your hand to him, and then you shall strengthen him, the ger and the toshav, and he will live with you, and then your brother will live with you.
Pesach tiftach kind of sounds like has nothing to do with the ani.
Yeah.
So far as like what he needs, it's just like you should be giving.
Right. It's totally referring to your givingness. Yeah. There's a generosity. Yeah.
And then the second one is like what you're doing to the ani. So
right.
You're strengthening him.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Like that kind of seems to bring the two together almost.
Yeah.
Not to go 1, 2, 3, but it kind of does that, right? It says that like then he's your brother and he's living with you.
Right.
Like it's like
like
a harmony.
Right. Because the one before this does say chai imach, but it doesn't emphasize the brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
So it does seem to be talking about a certain effect on.
Oh, because the giver is given. So
say again. These are the three pesukim that he quotes as the source of tzedakah. Okay. You should surely open your hand to him. So if I'm saying that is putting the emphasis on the act of giving, almost like no description of the recipient.
Also, like no description of like what of like how much you have to give either. Just like
right, just give him.
Just giving is giving.
Then the nemar hechazakta bo, strengthen him, is referring to the effect in the recipient. Ger v'toshav. I still don't know why it emphasizes ger v'toshav, because it's not just a ger and a toshav. I mean, it's putting in terms of Eretz Yisrael, which is interesting, right? Those are Eretz Yisrael terms. Mm-hmm. Ger just means a convert, but when you're talking about Eretz Yisrael, ger v'toshav seems to have like their relationship to land. Are they a temporary dweller or are they a permanent dweller? And then v'chai imach, and he will live with you. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that still is putting the emphasis on you strengthening him, and therefore he lives with you. But then chiach imach is like an equality. He is your brother, and he's living with you as a result of the thing you did. Yeah, Isaiah.
What is the translation of?
Hold on. I think my volume is messed up. Still. Hold on. Okay, now you may speak.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So how are we translating the hechazak? What is being strengthened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
So that is going to be defined in the next halacha. Okay, for our purposes, it means for our purposes, which we already kind of said, it means give him what he needs. Presumably, because like when he doesn't have what he needs, then he's the ani. Yeah, give the ani what he needs. Yeah, we'll see that in a little while. Yeah, okay, I think that's a good initial theory. The last puzzle? Yeah, is that as a result of you doing this, now your brother is living with you, which means like a certain type of equality. I don't mean to say equality like in wealth, but now you no longer have this poor guy and this rich guy. The poor guy who's unable to live in is dependent, and the rich guy who's able to have stuff he's living with you, and it's emphasizing the equality because of the brother.
Kind of like the process.
Yeah, that's what Chaim's saying. Is this is the process? Yeah.
It's almost like from the Jewish perspective, the receiver's perspective, and then like the outcome of that.
Yeah, the societal outcome, I think. Okay. Anyone who sees a poor person begging, and hides his eyes from him, and doesn't give him tzedakah, has violated a los aseh. Do not clench your heart or strengthen your heart, and do not clench your fist from your brother, the destitute one. Yeah, okay. So now we have to see what are the parameters of that. Okay, so let's get the facts and then we'll pick what to analyze for tomorrow. Why is this? Okay. Lefi ma shechaser ha'ani ata matzuva litain lo. Based on what the ani is lacking, you are commanded to give him. Okay. Im ein lo ksus machasinoso. If he has no clothing, you clothe him. Im ein lo clay bias. If he has no furniture, konin lo clay bias. Buy him furniture. Ein lo isha. If he's not married, masin oso isha. Then you marry him off to a woman. V'imhaisa isha. And if the poor person is a woman, masin osa leish. Then you marry her off to a man.
Not from at all.
Yeah, you mean in terms of getting them married? Yeah, right. Yeah, it is interesting, by the way, that like I know people sometimes feel resentment, and rightly or wrongly so, it depends on the circumstances, towards Aniyim who are collecting to be able to like pay for weddings. You know?
I've definitely been told that
Yeah,
before,
yeah. So okay, there you go. Yeah, and so I was gonna say is obviously if they're making like champagne fountains filled with gold dust, then yeah, we'll have to see this changes. So that's one thing, but like helping someone get married, like when he says misin oso isha, that does not just mean like do a shidduch, right? It means like financially help them to get married. Like we're talking about like what you give him, right? Okay. Then afilu. Now this is the controversial halacha, controversial in our society. What was it?
Does it not mean often?
No, it doesn't mean dafka not. It just is saying that. Yeah, mitzvah litain lo, right? You're giving him stuff. Yeah. Afilu hayadarko shalazeha ani lirkov alasus ve'eved ratz lefanav. So even if the derech of this guy, this poor person, was to ride on a horse and with a servant running in front of him, anyone else picturing Haman and Mordechai?
Oh, I was also picturing
Aladdin.
Eliyahu
Eliyahu. Oh yeah, I don't know enough about Eliyahu.
He ran in front of the chariot of Achav.
Oh, interesting.
That's where we
Okay.
get like something about Kabbalah Melech even to Russia.
Interesting. And then this guy became poor and lost his possessions. Konin lo sus lirkov alav ve'eved laros lefanav. We buy for him a horse to ride on and a servant to run before him. Shnemar, as it says, de machsaro asher yachsar lo, enough for his lack that he is lacking to him. Umitzuva ata lahashlim chesrona. You are commanded to fill his need, what he lacks, but you're not commanded to enrich in him, right? To make him richer. Yeah.
Sorry, just a question on that last part.
Yeah.
How?
Not me.
I don't say. In
Words.
At what point?
Yeah.
At what point is that be like his general like tzedakah amount, or is it like his best moment? Like
yeah, right. That's a good question. It's a good question, right? Yeah, right. So all we get from him from the Rambam is hayadarko, right? That this was his way. So it's definitely not his best moment, right? It means that this is like his standard of living. I think the way we would say it in English, it loosely corresponds to this was his standard of living. Now the thing is that that standards of living change. You know, like yeah.
Standards doesn't mean. I guess standards is fine. I was gonna say it doesn't mean he has that much money. He's be living that way.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Meaning, if he was already living beyond his means at that time,
bring it back to,
right? So that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, Joseph.
In relation to this, what was the definition of ani? As in, like, first, at what point below his normal status does he become an ani? Second, once, like, say he's a beggar or whatever.
Right.
What, like, does he stop? Like, you give him $100,000, does he stop being an ani such that the
right?
Whether or not he's been fulfilled to his
So that question will be answered in halacha vav. Lemi nostim. Who do we give to? Okay, so we're gonna have to wait for that one. Yeah, Chaim?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Zifkin. Zifkin.
And there's just in the end there, it's interesting that he says that lahashlim chesrona, that's like to
make whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that seems to be saying that, like, especially given the example, like you fill the void in his like way of life, but you don't like fill his bank account.
No, it means you're not obligated to make him richer.
Oh, richer.
Richer. I
than
think
the
la'ashros to enrichen him.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, thought that
I think
meant-
that's pshat, yeah.
I thought that
Right.
meant to, like,
Now again,
make him
and it
richer.
doesn't mean like obviously this guy who did this was rich, but that's why I'm learning la'ashro does not mean like to bring him to a certain level of wealth. It means to make him richer. La'ashro. You can ask that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so okay.
Yeah. Yep. I could have just closed my eyes and said it, and he could have spoken in unison. So I think plain shot of this, I don't think this is controversial. I mean, the halacha would make a lot of people upset now. Plain shot. So how is this day machzor asher yachzor lo? Like if he doesn't, you don't need a slave. Yeah, but how's that a need? Yeah.
Lacking is defined by the individuals, and you're making
Oh,
as in just like you're making the person what naturally is.
Okay, I think you're on the right track. I think we could say a little bit better though. Yeah, because it's not just find like the individual, like, well, I need Right. Yeah. Okay. I think that's a better way of saying it. I'm going to say it in my own way, and you'll tell me if there's a nuanced difference. Yeah, Kiva.
Different word.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like you have to bring him to where he's comfortable, basically. So
Right.
meaning the idea is that when someone's poor, like you could say, "Oh, just live there."
Yeah.
We'll give you food.
Right.
But that's
So the interesting thing though, so I do agree with you. I'm going to say it the way I was going to say it, and then you tell me if we can duke it out if you disagree, if either of you disagree. I think that there is, so we know you have physical needs, right? So there is such a thing as psychological needs, okay? And I think the barometer of the psychological needs is the fact that when you had a certain standard of living and then you drop below that, then there is pain, whether it's like pain about something from your self-identity or in society, like people looking down at you, I'm not going into what the psychology is, but there is such a thing as psychological needs. And this is the difficulty, which is that your psychological needs could be induced by your own crazy standards of living, right? Or by your society. For example, we are all in a situation where we need electricity and running water and like a floor, right? Now, do you actually need that? Of course you don't, right? Like in the poorest quadrant of the world, then they don't have any of those things, and they can live. So don't tell me you need running water and you don't need plumbing. But I think we would all agree that if we didn't have plumbing and running water and a floor, then we would be in a state of lack. And so in other words, what I'm saying is like, unlike physical needs, like needing water and oxygen, which is built into your physical constitution as a human animal, like this is common for everyone, psychological needs do go based on a certain amount of societal standards and a certain amount of like what you're used to. And halacha recognizes that those are real needs. On the other hand, if you do go like, okay, there's a, I'm going to be wrong to judge this person, but I'm using it as an example. The very first time I was in my first year at yeshiva, I was walking on Central Avenue late on a Friday afternoon, which I did not know that you shouldn't do all your errands on Friday afternoon on Central Avenue because it's really busy. But there was a woman asking for tzedakah, right? And again, I'm coming from Seattle. I'm not familiar with people on the street like asking for tzedakah. So she said, please, tzedakah, I need tzedakah. So I gave her tzedakah, and she said, I need more, I have a baby or whatever. So I gave her a little bit more. And she said, please, I need a new dress for Shabbos. Okay. Now, according to the Rambam, if that was her standard, and if I knew that, then that would be no different than needing food, right? But if she just is trying to get stuff out of me to have this I want a new dress every Shabbos, then that we would say that is not a psychological need, that's a psychological want. And how you draw the line is very difficult to determine. Yeah.
I guess the societal standards kind of answered this question right now.
Yeah.
But the other way, how far, if you just lost the Eved, but still has the horse, is that
right? So you still need to give him the Eved, yeah. And even a little. Oh, so that's like Yosef's question, right? Is that at what point does he leave the definition of poor? And that's an interesting question, right? Let me clarify this. That there's two things which I don't yet know whether they coincide. Okay, there's who is considered poor, for example, to the point where they can take tzedakah from the communal, like the kupa of the tzedakah or whatever, not the king kupa, or the tamchui, like depend on the community. And then who is considered poor to the extent where you need to give them a certain amount of money, and and can you have a situation where this guy, let's say this guy was dirt poor, but used to be rich with the horse and the eved, and then you give him enough to get the horse but not the eved, right? So is he still poor or is he not poor, but you would still give him this is what we have to figure out. Okay. And that's why we have to, I said this after shiur last time, I don't think I recorded it, is in areas of halacha where we have natural intuitions, in areas of halacha where we don't have natural intuitions, like tumas kalim, you're just kind of at the mercy of the facts, which is a good situation because you're learning everything afresh, but it's bad because you have zero intuition. Here, areas with tzedakah, like natural human categories that we deal with, we have lots of intuitions, but the order of our intuitions is not necessarily the order of the halakhic structure. So we're going to have to, in addition to learning the halachos and shaping our intuitions, we have to take note of what order the Rambam answers the questions in, and be patient with that as well. But I mean, these are all good questions. Yeah.
Right. That's why I was thinking, and I think I'm agreeing with you. The reason I was putting it in terms of stress.
Yeah.
And somewhat addressing, the question.
Yeah. I mean, if he's still distressed.
How does it define what the technological one technological means?
Yeah.
I mean, want this item. I don't know. I'll give an example for myself.
Yeah.
I would love to have the food and that more than
right.
So I'm not stressed out.
Right.
But
yeah.
I don't know. When I go to it, I won't be stressed out about it.
Yeah. I hear that. The one thing I'm wary of is making it too dependent on individual factors. I mean, clearly this is dependent, right? Haya darko shelzeh ani lirkov alasus. You can define that without seeing inside the guy's head, right? Mm-hmm. You look at the guy, let's use a modern example, right? That this family belonged to a home that owned a car, right? And now they don't have a car, they have to take public transportation. It sounds like it doesn't matter what distress is going on in their head. You're mitzvah to restore them to their socioeconomic status that they had before. I would feel much more comfortable if that was the standard, even though it is based on an idea of psychological need, And then one thing I want to mention also is when it says, so your derech can change, like I mentioned. So let's say like me, when I was a kid, our family had one standard of living because we lived in Yakima and everything was cheaper, and then in Seattle, the cost of living is really high. So we changed. So let's say the first month that we moved to Seattle, you wouldn't say that, I don't think you would say that. We weren't poor, so but you could say at that point, their derech was that they had a big house with a swimming pool, But let's say 10 years go by, you can no longer say their derech was that. So at what point does your derech change? All right, so more questions to answer because this is good getting into the particulars now. So just sneak peek tomorrow. He has another halacha about the orphan. And then the question is, how much do you have to give? Then there's the question of who do you have to give to? How poor do they have to be? And then is it Jews and non-Jews? Okay, that's the forecast for the week. Okay, all righty. Yeah.
I also can't out to